Hello, WikiTreers. We're really happy to see you here. I see we've got a nice little crowd joining us out there. I have Rob Pavey with me today, and Rob is here from California. Is that right, Rob?
Hi.
And Aowen couldn't make it today, so it's just going to be Rob and I. And Rob's going to talk to us today about AGC, Automatic GEDCOM Cleaner. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And Sourcer, which is a nice extension that I think many of us have learned how to love very much for its many functions. So, Rob, would you like to say a little bit about yourself and what you like to do on WikiTree?
So yeah, I've been a professional programmer since 1981 or so, and I retired a couple of years ago and got into using WikiTree. And I wasn't really planning to do any programming, but I guess things maybe want to make things more efficient. My programmer mind doesn't like doing things repetitively that a computer could be doing for me, so
understandable.
I got into programming for WikiTree.
That's great. Well, and we're glad that you made that decision because you've given us some really nice tools to use. So, go ahead.
So I was going to say, go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pop in there. And I think you said you were going to cover AGC first.
Yeah. So AGC was the first one I wrote, so I thought I'd talk about that first. I started on this because this is the free space page that describes it. When I first started on WikiTree, I wanted to import my GEDCOM from Ancestry because that's where I've been working for 10 years or so. And so this was originally called WikiTree Ancestry GEDCOM Cleanup, but since then it's broadened to support more things. But I can give you a quick demo. So this is my GEDCOM from my Ancestry tree, and this is a person's page, like Richard Brain, who's a relative. And I've imported some of these, but these ones down here, his children, haven't been imported yet. So we can pick one. This one has a birth and a death date, so maybe try that one. So I click the add button. Some of you are probably very familiar with this who've imported GEDCOMs, and some have probably never seen it. And it brings you into the regular add page that you would get if you just manually added a person on WikiTree. And I've already gone through and checked these are not duplicates. So it fills in
a nice long list there.
yeah. Well, there aren't very many Brains, but it includes Browns and Bryans. So this bit here is what GEDCompare has generated, the notes and the sources. So we just go ahead and say add. And this is what is created by GEDCompare, which is not what I really want in a profile.
It's not very friendly looking, is it?
Yeah, so I won't go through all the details of what I don't like about it, but if you go back to the AGC page, there's this section on what problems does the extension address, and that goes into detail about all the things that I would like to change about what GEDCompare produces. So where were we? Here we go. So what we can do, so it's over just briefly, like it has, everything's on one paragraph, but it has the birth and the death, and it has the residence. But the residence is in a random order, like 1939, 1911, and then the source, the other big thing that's time consuming to fix is that the sources are all separated out into a citation part and a source part, which isn't a recommended way these days to do things.
Makes it a little harder to read.
Yeah. So I did start, when I first started doing this, I was thinking, okay, what do I need to change? So I started making a checklist that I would do manually of like, well, I'll put line breaks in, I'll put the birth and all the residences in chronological order, and then the death, and there's really no need for a name here with various sources because obviously and this is really all based off how this looks in Ancestry. Like if you looked at Right, this is what this person looks like in Ancestry, and really the GEDCOM has just gone through and extracted all these sources, and generated it like this. But anyway, to show what AGC does, if you go into edit on here, you can see this button here.
And that only
AGC.
shows up if it recognizes an
that's
GEDCOM
right.
import, correct?
Yeah, like when you go into edit mode, it'll scan the text and see if it looks like a GEDCOM. Like it'll look for things like name in bold or birth in bold and a few other things to decide if it looks like a GEDCOM.
Okay.
So this button's here. If you press this button, you can see it makes a change. And we can go down and press preview. So what it's done is it's changed or got rid of all those headings like born, died, residents and things, and turned it into a chronological narrative. And this is the idea is it saves you a lot of time by sorting everything out, and then it's a starting point for you to write your biography for the person.
Great. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and you can see the sources are also now all just together. There's a lot of options in the. If you look here, you can see that there's like 3 different sources for the birth, and like which is 1, 2, and 3. So the census is quoted and the 1939 register. So those are named references because 2 is also used down here. If we go up here on the right to this puzzle piece, you can see WikiTree AGC here, and there's this submenu has an options. That brings up the options page for AGC, and there's a ton of different options like the spelling. That really only affects one thing, whether you baptism is spelt with a, or baptized is spelt with an S or a Z. But then you can choose whether you want to put the age on the narrative events. And then what I was just talking about with the references and sourcing, there's a lot of choices here about when to use named references. You can say never use named references, just use the source once, and then it'll be on the one that it most belongs with. Or you can say keep all the named references that are were there in the Ancestry import.
Okay, so that would keep the original ref name then?
I think it does rename them, but it keeps the same number of named references.
It still assigns them to the same locations. Yeah. Okay.
And then the other thing it does is it will put in an issues to be checked section if it finds any issues, and these are just things that you should check before you carry on, and then remove this section. So in this case, what the GEDCOM created her with a current last name of Brain, even though it knows she was married. So this corrects that by changing the current last name to the last name of the last husband it knows about.
And it picked the married name up from her biography, not from the connection, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it spotted that there was a marriage. Another thing to mention is this button, once you pressed it, this is horrible programmer art that I've never fixed, but this now means undo what you did.
Okay.
So you can click this and it puts it back to what it was. So if you have any questions about, why is it saying that, or why did it lose any data, you can go back. For example, you can do preview. This is what it used to look like. Double check and then go forward again by pressing it again and do preview. So it's just quicker than going out in edit mode and back in.
Okay, I did not know that. I've learned something now today. My day is complete.
And then the other thing is, like, when you're first using it, especially, and you're trying to work out what are the options, you can like do undo, go and edit the options, do redo, and it'll do it with those options. You can undo, change the options again, redo, just until you've landed on how you want the options to be.
Fantastic, very thoughtful.
So yeah, I'm gonna go through and just like remove. That seems perfectly fine. So I'll remove that whole research notes section.
And I'm going
preview
to
it.
interject a little bit here because
Mm.
I know in that research notes section, you often will add in, I mean, I've seen a lot of things pop up in there that might alert
Yeah,
you to a mistake in the
especially with older
information.
format ones, which
Hmm.
I'll mention next. But so let's finish with this one, which is an import
Okay.
from AGC. The one thing people sometimes get confused about is they think that AGC is working off the GEDCOM itself, but it's not. All it's doing is working off the text that was put in here by GEDCompare,
Okay.
and also what's in these fields. It doesn't know anything about the actual GEDCOM, and it automatically puts in a change explanation for you. You're welcome to edit that, but so I'm going to save that one.
Very nice.
So that's doing a brand new import. But there's also a lot of cases where you come across a GEDCOM that was imported some time ago. And this is a different format. You can see it's
Hmm.
not all on one line, and it has it actually puts the name with the equals 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 heading rather than bold.
Hmm.
Um, when I started on this, I thought there was just like an old format GEDCOM and the new format. But as time has gone on, I've discovered that the format generated by GEDCompare has changed many, many times since
Yes.
it was introduced, or since the first GEDCOM imports started.
Hmm.
So it handles some better than others. But for example, with this one, we can edit it, go in, press the button, do a preview, and it
So much better.
it got rid of all those headings and made it chronologically ordered.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is a case where there's more issues.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
there was a burial, but it didn't have a date, so it actually combined them together. There was in the original there was a death fact and a burial fact, but they
Hmm.
had the same location, and the burial didn't have a date, so it just changed it to one line saying he died on this date and here and was buried here.
Great.
And sometimes there's more than one death fact. So it shows you the two different ones. Like apparently there's one on the 15th and one on the 13th. So you can go back and you could do an undo and have a look at how it was originally, see what makes sense. Just another example. This is another old GEDCOM, and this is one that has lots of what we call GEDCOM junk, like these tags, reference, user ID, which really don't belong on WikiTree.
Nope.
So this one, you come in, I do a clean, and you can do a preview. You see it's got rid of all the GEDCOM junk and simplified it down. There's an option in whether you want to keep this or not. There's a bit of a difference of opinion. Like the England project, when they clean up GEDCOMs, they remove this because they use that as a way of finding GEDCOMs that haven't been cleaned. But in other projects prefer to keep it so that related, if there are related profiles that
Right.
they find it useful to know what GEDCOM this one came from.
There was a time
Hmm.
many years ago when a GEDCOM was imported, sometimes it would get blown apart and the relationships would not stay the way they were meant to. So that leaving that in there for those types of GEDCOMs helps to identify them and put everybody back together again.
Okay. And then last thing on AGC. So this is another example of a GEDCOM. So this is an example where it gets an error. So I click on this and it brings up an error message here saying it didn't change the profile because the format wasn't what it expected. And it looks like it's been edited.
Okay.
It's a tricky thing. Like I can be fairly loose and try and interpret it even if it's not the format I expect, but then there's always a risk that it could lose data. So I try to be in the kind of middle ground. And so sometimes this is a format that it gets an error like this just because there's so many different formats that were created by GEDCompare that I just don't handle that one. But in this case, if you look, you can see that it was imported, but then it was edited just recently, and it was edited to remove the GEDCOM junk, but also the person editing it removed this birth line, and they removed one colon here. So it's no longer a format that GEDCOM generated. So you have a choice here. You could either like just put these lines back in, not junk, but these colons and things, and then it would handle it and clean it up, or you could just say, okay, it's been manually edited. I won't use AGC.
So yeah, I suppose you could do a restore on that to put it back to the original GEDCOM format,
Yeah.
and then go from there. But it depends.
Yeah.
For me, it would depend on how much was there. If it looks simple enough, I
Yeah.
would just forge ahead.
One that reminds me, one wish list I would have for WikiTree is it would be nice if you could just cut and paste this bit on the left.
Yes.
And copy it and paste, but you can't. It copies both sides.
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
Okay, well, that's AGC. I don't know if you want to take any questions on AGC before we move on to Sourcer.
Let's see. Roz was saying that some people are okay with the GEDCOM name just remaining in the changes log, but when you do a search with WikiTree Plus to try and find profiles within a GEDCOM, that's not going to show up. So that's a good point, Roz. Thank you. I think everybody else was just pretty captivated by what you were showing them. There's some people that haven't seen this yet, so I imagine you're going to get a lot more users now.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, and if people have questions about how to install it and things, just search for WikiTree AGC.
And that's a free space page, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, you could just search for that in Google. Find this page. And it tells you how to install it and so on. So, moving on. Oh, sorry.
That is an extension then. So that little button's not going to show up in your edit area unless you have the extension installed on Chrome, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I didn't mention that. So it works, this how to install section, it works on most browsers, like Firefox is a separate store, and then a lot of browsers like Edge and Chrome use the Chrome Web Store. The big exception is Safari and iOS, which I am working on for Sourcer, and if I get that working, I'll eventually get it working for AGC on Safari. It's just Apple make it a lot harder to make extensions.
Yes, I understand. I love Apple. I love their products, but they do make it their own version of the world. So
yeah, they like to do things their own way.
Yeah.
Okay, so the WikiTree Sourcer, that's similar in that it doesn't work on Safari yet. There is actually a beta version that I created for Safari, so if people wanted to try out, they could contact me, but it's getting a bit out of date because I haven't updated it. I'm planning to get back to it fairly soon.
Okay, so if anybody would like to be a beta tester, they should get a hold of you then?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
I'm
sorry, go ahead. We have a question here. It's not related to what you're doing, unfortunately. If someone in the audience would like to get a hold of Linda when we're done here and help her with the data doctor information, she sees a suggestion in yellow. How does she bring it up? So if somebody wants to get a hold of her and help her out with that, that'd be great.
Okay. So WikiTree Source is a bit different. It's an extension again, but whereas AGC is all about helping you with GEDCOMs, WikiTree Source has got more general use. I think it's useful to anyone using WikiTree. And it does three things. It helps you search from either the WikiTree profile page to other sites, which is similar to root search, but I got a little frustrated with root search with the way it's a separate page and you have to log in and that stuff. And then when you get to a record, it lets you build a citation, which is the main thing I built it for, created this,
which is super handy.
Yeah. But then also I found that I was doing a lot of the time I'd like find something on Ancestry because I subscribe to Ancestry and find my past. But then I'd want to find a free citation. So I'd be trying to find the same thing on Family Search. And the Family Search can be pretty frustrating. So what this extension does is it also will let you search from one site to another site and try and make that as easy as possible.
Fantastic.
So so to demo it, I got this one I created yesterday. This is actually a sister of the person we imported from GEDCOM.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came in from my GEDCOM import with just two sources, the 1871 census and 1881 census. This is in England. So WikiTree Sourcer is a bit different. It's not a button on the page. It's up on the right. So where I'm pointing now, there's this one in square brackets. So that's the icon for WikiTree Sourcer. And if you click on it, it brings up a menu. So there's 5 different sites currently that you can search. And so for this particular one, we could say, well, we don't actually have the birth. We just have a birth date from the census. So let's see if we can actually find the birth. We know her mother's maiden name and things. So let's try. So for England records, at least on the England project, the kind of gold standard is the official GRO indexes. So what this has done is it's opened a new tab, taken us to the GRO page, and then filled out the fields, and including the mother's maiden name, which should help find this one, though Smith's a pretty common name. So there are actually 2. There's one in Tamworth and one in Pontypool, which is in Wales. But we know that this person, if we go back here, she was born in Warwickshire, which is where Tamworth is. Okay. So we know it's actually this one. So what we can do is select that one. It will actually default to the first one, but if you wanted the other one, you'd have to select it.
Okay.
And then now, so this menu is actually different depending on what page you're on. And they all allow searches. But now we can build a citation. And there's actually 3 choices. You can build an inline citation, which is kind of the preferred thing these days on WikiTree, as opposed to source citations, but some people still prefer source ones, which is where you put them below the sources line. Or you can build a narrative with an inline citation. So that's the one with the most details. So I'll do that one now. And it says it's saved it to the clipboard. Let's go back. Let's go to edit mode. So I could create an inline citation and just stick it on the end of this line here, which is probably what I would normally do. But you could also, in this case, I've done a narrative. So this line here is the narrative. It just saves you typing in. If you just created an inline citation and you hadn't got anything for this event yet, I found myself all the time putting in inline citation and then typing, oh, she was born on this date in this place. And so I added this option to just put something in. It's just the starting point. You can edit it, do whatever you want. And then it's got an inline citation. There's a ton of options. Like let's look in preview mode just to show you what it looks like when you're viewing the citation. So it's actually put the birth registration here because I pasted it in after the citation one, the census one, sorry. So what it looks like is it puts a kind of meaningful title. That's an option. It'll put each website, it has different kind of rules. This is kind of based on the England project's template for GRO citations. And it actually puts a link to the registration districts in England. Can be a bit confusing for people who don't know England well. So it puts in a link, and if I open this link here for the registration district in a different tab, you can see it describes where this Tamworth in Staffordshire, and it was abolished in 1939, and all different towns. Now that's optional, and it has. I'm still getting all the kinks out of it. Hopefully most of them are fixed now, but when it generates this link, it has to kind of make a bit of a guess as to what the page is called. And I think I've fixed most of the special cases, but if you spot one that doesn't resolve, let me know. Okay, so that's adding a birth registration with a narrative. Let's try adding a second. So we have the 71 and 81 census for her. So we could try and find the 91 census. So you can see these little arrows on the right. So we could look on family search and just say, find any records for Marianne. Or we could click here and say, let's search for a specific collection. And there are certain collections that WikiTree Sourcer knows about. It knows about the England and US and Canada censuses, for example. So we can say let's specifically search for the 91 census, and then it will go to family search, and it will search only for records in, you can see it's put here, collection, England census 91. So it's restricting the search to that. There's a lot of choices with this that, like, currently I don't pull in the father and the mother, even though I could have done, which would have cut down this quite a bit. And that doesn't actually find the census we're looking for. I could manually enter the father and the mother. Another way of doing it is I could go search family search and search with specific parameters and say I'm looking for a census, and then you can decide whether to include the father or the mother. So now we're going to include the father and mother.
Very nice.
It still doesn't find the this. I know which one's the right one because I've already clicked on it. From when I was looking at this thing. But you can see that family search is very annoying for searching. So that does
actually can be,
that does actually find the right census. But if you subscribe to Ancestry, often what's easiest is to like find it on Ancestry first, because like if I do search on Ancestry for the 1891 census, the correct one is the first match. So it's just a lot smarter. So but so
if you look at that record on Ancestry, maybe you're getting ready to do this. I'm sorry. It will. You can also search for it on Family Search, correct?
Yeah. So, and that works.
If I'm getting ahead of you, just tell me to be quiet.
So it would be nice if Family Search allowed you to search by the piece number and folio number, because that would get you. And they actually, if I wanted to find this record on Find My Past, like there's this special feature in the extension, search the same collection for the same record on Find My Past. And because Find My Past allows the piece number and the folio number, it actually just gets one hit, which is the right one. But if you were from Ancestry and you were trying to find the Family Search one, you can do the same thing. Family Search, find the same collection from the same record. And I'm still tuning this, but it doesn't let you search by folio number, and then it has some peculiarities. Like it doesn't find a match, and there's various reasons why. Like eventually you can like remove various things and search and eventually get it. So you just
have to tweak.
Okay.
And I believe they've been redoing their search engine and their I'm not sure if they're redoing their database structure or not, but that doesn't make things easier for you.
So anyway, at this point we have the same census record in 4 different places, 3 different places: Family Search, Ancestry, and Find My Past. And we can choose which one to cite. And they all have their pros and cons. Because if you cite the Family Search one, then you can see the transcription for free, but there's no image. So this is an interesting feature. Family Search has got very confused about whether it has images or not. This one, you can see their citation actually says there's images on Find My Past. You can click on this and it says there might be something on a partner's site somewhere, which is weird because it actually knows that it's there on Family Search and on Find My Past. So I actually found a way of digging out the link on Find My Past that they have on Family Search, but they refuse to show you. So you can actually click this button here and it will open it on Find My Past for you. So it's just a little extra in the extension.
We have a question for
yeah.
you. This is available. What browsers is this available for?
It's the same as AGC currently in that it's everything except Safari, pretty much. The Chrome and all the Chromium-based browsers like Edge and Opera, and on Firefox as well. Some people are using it successfully on Android tablets, using a Chrome-based browser called Kiwi. So if you can install the Kiwi browser on an Android tablet and then go to the Chrome store and install the extension, and it works.
Okay.
Okay, so I haven't shown. So why don't we add a citation from each of these sites and then we can compare them. So let's say build a narrative with a citation for this 1891 census. Go back to Elsie. Oh no, Mary. Yes. And I'm just going to do Control V, paste that in. Preview. So you can see it generated a narrative, and it tries to create some meaningful sentence out of the information it knows. But of course, this is a starting point. And you can see down here, this is the citation it creates. Similarly, for ancestry, we can create a citation. Let's just create a inline citation now because we've already got a narrative. And as just for comparison's sake, we'll paste in the ancestry one. And this, while we're here, we'll do the Find My Past one as well. So she's a servant in this household here.
Okay.
Inline citation. Control V. And now if we do a preview, so we have three sources. 3 different 1891 census.
Okay.
So they all have, and then these are very much things you can change. So I was messing with something the other day. So the reason this ancestry one looks different is I've set this to don't create just a meaningful sentence. So with family search, you can see it's created a kind of sentence for the data at the end.
Okay.
But there's a choice. You can either have a sentence, a list, or a table.
Okay.
And for ancestry, I currently have it set to a list. So it basically just takes all the fields that were on the ancestry citation or ancestry record and just puts them in as a list separated with semicolon.
Okay.
And then for Find My Past, I have it set to sentence. But that brings me on to options. So we haven't mentioned options yet for Sourcer. So on the pop-up menu, there's an options menu, menu item. And I've tried to make this look kind of WikiTree-like. And it has different tabs. There's a tab for like controlling how the search works, like on different sites, one for how the citations look, one for controlling narrative, and one for how household tables look, which I'll get to in a minute. So you can see currently I have ancestry set to use a list of semicolon separated fields, which is why I did that. So there's basically a choice: sentence, list, or table. And part of the reason why I lay out these citations as I do is I put the title of the collection, and then a reference within that collection typically, or in the original data, and then links, and then I have a data section at the end, and that's the thing that can either be a sentence, a list, or a table.
Okay.
So some people like these bold, meaningful titles, some don't, so that's an option here. This one here, add a meaningful name at the start of each reference. There's that option there. There's also whether you want an access date and various things about how you want it to look with breaks and new lines and things. How are we doing for time?
You're great. Your great time.
So that's probably most of the things other than tables.
So basically, if people just need to come in here and play around with the
Yeah.
options and see
Yeah.
what their preferences are.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different things you can do with this search from WikiTree versus the search across different sites. Like, for example, FreeBMD. So we know this person married. Well, this person did actually marry, but we don't actually know she married from this. So searching from her marriage, and typically what I happen to know that there's a civil marriage record for her, but not a church marriage.
Okay.
Search. So the preferred kind of thing for UK civil marriages is the FreeBMD site because it's free. But I know that I would probably have more luck searching on Ancestry. So what I would probably do is search on Ancestry for a marriage. There's a subcategory, say marriage and divorce. I know that her parents are not going to be mentioned on a civil marriage. So I'll search for that. And we'll see if it actually finds it. I'm pretty sure this is the one. Oh, no, that's not the one, I don't think. See, it can be a little tricky to find.
Sure.
Civil marriages.
Yeah, this gets into research skills, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, but I find that a combination of different, in this case, I happen to know that her husband's name was, I believe, Prophet. And that's, I may be misremembering, I guess. And
oh, I never do that, Rob. I always remember everything perfectly.
Yeah. But in general, it can be useful to, like, if you find a civil marriage, this probably isn't the right one. You found, oh, that looks like the right one. You can then search like FreeBMD marriages and then find it there.
And that allows you to cite from a free repository rather than Ancestry.
Yeah. And then if you want to create a citation from FreeBMD, you have to click on the info button. And then there's a build citation. So the last thing I haven't mentioned is household tables. So
I think Roz is going to be very happy about that. She really wanted you to build one.
Okay. So there's different amounts of data available on different sites. So oh, one thing I forgot to mention is I was talking about each different place you can cite has different pros and cons. So if you cite family search here, it will put the link to Find My Past. So you can find an image, but only if you've got a subscription to Find My Past.
Okay.
Whereas if you cite the Ancestry one, it automatically generates this Ancestry sharing link, which most people are probably familiar with, but Ancestry provides a way where you can do share on an image, and then anyone can view that link, whether they have a subscription or not. I'll click on this to open it in a new tab to show you what that looks like. So it says, that I shared this link. So they initially provided this so you could share things on Facebook and Twitter and things, but the extension will automatically go through all that process of sharing and generating this link and automatically put it in the citation.
Fantastic. That's a great choice.
So in some ways, the Ancestry citation is the best because it will give you a, you've got all the data and you've also got a free link to the image. But then, the family search one is good also. But if you want to create a table, you'll find that Ancestry actually has the least amount of information. I mean, I could create a table here, a household table, and we could paste it in. So I would typically put it here after so you can see this is a wiki table syntax. If I preview that, it generates the table like this by default. But you can see it's missing a lot of information. The extension has built-in knowledge of what columns should be there for each site, for each census. It knows the 89.1 census has all these columns. But on the ancestry table view here, it doesn't show you very much. I could probably extract all this information by going and visiting all of these links, but I am a little wary of upsetting ancestry by scraping too much data and visiting lots of sites. But if you look on Find My Past, that has a lot more information. And Family Search, they don't have a nice view of a table, but they do actually have
they used to
the right information. So it's interesting in that it's showing other people on these records, but
it looks like it's been indexed differently.
Yeah, but it will actually create a table, a nice table, magically from that. And let's paste that one in. So I'm noticing that that's a little. I may actually have the wrong link here because I noticed that these are all called read. I actually am looking at the wrong reference on that one.
Okay. It's tiny for me, so I can't really tell.
Yeah. So that does actually have more information.
Sure.
But it turns out that's the wrong census, which I accidentally clicked on. But let's go back to
how you got confused with all those tabs that you have open.
But so Find My Past is the right one, and we can see he has things. She's a servant of a general medical practitioner.
Okay.
Who has probably a son. It's interesting. Oh yeah, assistant. No, it's not his son. It's just his assistant. Okay, so let's build a household table there and paste that one in. And you can see that there's a lot more information in this one than that one. So it's important to check the image as well, because I can see there's an error here. The place she was born was actually called Glasgow Heath, not Heath.
Okay.
So we can go and check the image. And so here's the Park Hills, and here's Mary A. Brain. You can see it does actually say Staffordshire, Glasgow Heath. They just transcribed it wrong. So I can go in and edit that and say.
That's why we should always go look at the image when we can.
Glasgow Heath. And then there could be other things that's worth checking. So like everything else, there's options for how tables look. You can have, if you don't like having a heading row, you can not have a heading row at all, or you can have it with no different background color. You can have it with bold. These are all in the options up here. This household table tab. Some people actually don't like tables at all. They'd rather have a list, like a bulleted list or an indented lines. So you can choose between those two. If you say table, then these options affect it. If you choose list, then this option here gives you those options. And then you can choose whether there's a border, whether there's padding, whether there's a caption.
Nice.
And there's like 8 different options for how you show the person in bold. That actually changed recently in that I used to use to make this line bold here. I used to have a CSS style, but that's kind of against the recommendations on WikiTree. So now there's a bunch of different options. But if you want to make the whole line bold and you don't want it centered, then it uses just the normal triple single quotes.
Right.
So that's pretty much it for Sourcer. As I mentioned,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So currently it supports 5 sites. I have a long list of other sites that people would like it to support, and also Safari. People would like it to support. So those are the big things on my list. But there's over 1,000 users now on WikiTree, so I'm getting a lot of feedback every day.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I think you'll have a few more after today.
So currently I'm busy just like fixing little glitches that people find, or particular ancestry records that don't create nice citations. And there's I just remembered the edit citation thing.
There you go.
Like if you're looking at an image and you have a citation, you might and you want to make sure the citation's right. The edit citation will bring up the citation here. You can look at the image and like edit it in place.
Oh, I like that.
And save it. Eventually, I might it would be nice to like be able to create a split screen thing where it had a thing along on the bottom with the citation in, so you could scroll the page and edit that all together. Anyway,
that's a lot, Rob. You have really enlightened a number of us here. If anybody has any questions, we would love to hear them. We've got Rob for a little while longer here, but we're not going to keep him any longer than we need to.
No, I'm happy to answer questions.
Lauren says now she's wondering if she should just redo everything she's done so far.
Yeah, well, we can always
one bite
improve.
at a time. I always say you can't eat the whole elephant at once, so one bite at a time.
Yeah, when I import things from my GEDCOM, if I'm feeling very completionist, I'll go through and replace all the sources that the GEDCOM AGC created and do them with WikiTree Sourcer sources because they've got the sharing links and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, we can't do make everything perfect.
No, we try. Some of us try or drive ourselves crazy trying. Well, we really appreciate this, Rob. You've shared a lot of information. I thought I knew all the stuff that was in there, and you've shown us quite a number of things I was not all that familiar with. So that's great.
Yeah, and it's I'm working on it all the time at the moment. So I'm always trying to make the search between sites work better and things like that.
Do you have any other interesting apps up your sleeve that you're getting ready to produce?
No, I think WikiTree Sourcer is going to keep me pretty full-time job for the next 2 years at this rate.
Yeah,
if I had all this the sites that people would like to see supported.
I'm sure you're getting a lot of feedback.
I mean, there's definitely things I have ideas for, but then, like I mentioned, there's some concerns about not wanting to break terms of service with sites. Like it would, rather than using WikiTree AGC, you could just go to your family tree on AGC on Ancestry and go to a profile and say create a WikiTree profile for that, and it could use all the same code that WikiTree Source is doing to create all the citations and narrative. But that would mean opening a whole bunch of Ancestry pages one after the other, which might fall foul of their
they might not look fondly on that.
So I'm mostly just focused on first getting it working on Safari, which then should mean I can get it working on iPad as well.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I know we have a lot of people that use their mobile devices to work on WikiTree. I'm always surprised to hear that because I personally don't feel very comfortable with that, but I'm glad that people are able to do it.
Yeah.
So, well, if we have no more questions, I think we're going to wrap things up. I really appreciate you being here and sharing all of this. And we can find you. I was going to mention if anybody wants to be able to find more information about these apps, you can find them on the Help Apps page. Go to the Find menu, and it's the first link. And you'll find links to these apps on that page and contact information for you too, right, Rob?
Yeah, if you go to those free space pages, I'm the author, profile manager for them. So you can send me a private message.
Sure.
And we have a little community. I actually have my own Discord server with about 30 people who are kind of actively beta testing and providing feedback every day on different things. So if someone wants to be super active on it, they're welcome to join that.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm sure you'll get a few more. And the more you have, the more you'll uncover and make it more perfect. So that's fantastic. All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up. Thanks, everybody, for popping in. I'm sure we'll catch some more as they watch this later. We're not always at a good time for everybody. So you'll get some more questions later, Rob. Thanks for being here.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me.
Sure. We'll see you guys next